She never served. If she claims she did, she's lying. My father's voice echoed through the crowded courtroom. He smiled at the jury, certain he had finally ruined me. He was suing me for millions, claiming I had stolen money from my late mother's secret trust. For years, he and his greedy new wife had called me a liar and accused me of faking a military career to cover up financial crimes. My father looked straight at me, expecting me to surrender. Then my lawyer quietly approached the judge and placed a sealed Pentagon envelope on the bench. The courtroom fell silent. The judge broke the seal and read the document. His face suddenly went pale. He slowly removed his glasses, stared at my father and said firmly, "All rise. My name is Evelyn Carter. I'm 40 years old and I learned a painful truth growing up. Some people build families while others destroy them. My father was a powerful real estate developer who measured everyone by money. To him, I was never truly his daughter. I was simply the child who could never live up to his expectations. My younger brother, Christian, was different. He was the golden child and my father's chosen heir. Even though Christian failed at nearly every business venture Dad gave him, he could do no wrong. The only person who ever made me feel loved was my mother. She was gentle, kind, and quietly battling a serious illness. When she suddenly died, everything changed. My father barely had time to grieve before introducing Victoria, his new wife. She was controlling, ambitious, and determined to take over everything. Together they pushed me out of the family. They locked me out of my mother's bedroom, gave her jewelry to Victoria, and made it clear that I was no longer welcome in my own home. But they didn't know my mother had prepared something they could never take from me. A few weeks later, the family attorneys called us in to discuss my mother's private trust. As the lawyer read the documents, my father's expression slowly changed. Hidden inside the legal paperwork was a powerful clause my mother had added months before her death. Millions of dollars had been placed into an independent trust. And according to the agreement, the money belonged to me. My father couldn't touch it. But there was one condition. The money could only be released after a specific, highly confidential requirement was fulfilled. The lawyer refused to reveal the details. My father was furious. He and Victoria spent weeks pressuring me to give up my rights. They threatened to cut me off completely and destroy my future if I refused. I didn't fight them publicly. That I disappeared. I packed one suitcase, left town, cut contact with everyone, and vanished without leaving an obvious trail. My father immediately twisted the story. He told everyone I had run away because I was ashamed after being caught trying to steal from the family. But he had no idea what I was really doing. For the next 10 years I stayed completely out of sight. And while my father believed I was hiding in fear, I was preparing for the day he could no longer control me. 10 years passed before I returned home. By then I was a completely different person. My father and Victoria, however, had only become greedier. During my absence, my father's real estate empire had started collapsing. They had made risky investments, spent millions on failed developments, and piled up enormous debts. They were desperately moving money between companies just to keep their failing empire alive. Then my father discovered something terrifying. The 10-year anniversary of my mother's death was approaching. That meant the trust was finally about to be released. My father saw the money as his last chance to save his empire. The moment he learned I was back, he sued me. He wanted the entire inheritance. He claimed I had secretly changed my mother's trust documents before her death and manipulated her while she was ill. But that wasn't even his biggest lie. Because no one could trace where I had been for 10 years, my father created an even darker story. He told the media that my military career was completely fake. According to him, I had invented a secret military identity to hide offshore accounts and secretly launder money stolen from the family. He was confident the courtroom would finally expose me as a fraud. He had no idea that the sealed Pentagon envelope would prove exactly who I really was. He painted me as a heartless fraud who had dishonored the military and used the uniform as a cover for financial crimes. By the time the trial began, the entire community had turned against me. People believed my father was a grieving parent finally exposing his corrupt daughter. The courtroom was packed with reporters, former business associates, and curious spectators waiting to watch me fall. My father took the stand first. He put on the performance of his life. He wiped away fake tears and told the jury how devastated he was to discover that his own daughter had betrayed him. He claimed to deeply respect the military, yet every time he looked toward me, his face filled with disgust. Then his lawyers presented what appeared to be evidence against me. They showed fake employment records from shell companies and brought in family friends who claimed they had seen me living in luxury overseas. According to their stories, I had spent 10 years hiding in Europe while pretending to serve my country. Then my father turned toward the jury. His voice was loud and confident. She never served. If she says she did, she's lying. The courtroom erupted in whispers. Victoria smiled from the front row. My father looked at me as if the case were already over. He expected me to panic, beg for mercy, and surrender my mother's millions. But I remained completely calm. Because I knew something he didn't. His entire case was about to collapse. After my father stepped down from the witness stand, my lawyer slowly stood. He didn't make a dramatic speech. Instead, he walked toward the judge carrying a thick manila envelope marked with a red Pentagon classification seal. He handed it directly to the bailiff. My father's confident expression disappeared. Victoria stopped smiling. The judge carefully opened the envelope and removed the official document inside. As he read it, his expression completely changed. His face went pale. His hands began to tremble. Then he looked up. The document confirmed the truth. I had served in the military. For 10 years, I had worked under a highly classified intelligence assignment. My identity and public records had been deliberately protected because of the nature of my mission. That was why I had seemingly disappeared. And suddenly, my mother's secret trust condition made perfect sense. She had known about my assignment. The money could only be released after I completed my 10 years of service, ensuring the inheritance remained protected while I was working undercover. My father had spent years calling me a liar. But now the official record proved otherwise. The judge slowly removed his glasses and stared at my father and Victoria. The courtroom became completely silent. Then he slammed his gavel down. Everyone rise. My father's face went white. The judge ordered the authorities to take action against my father and Victoria for the alleged fraud, false testimony, and illegal attempts to interfere with the trust. Their empire collapsed soon afterward. Investors walked away. Banks demanded repayment of their loans, and their remaining assets were swallowed by mounting legal and financial problems. The people who once believed my father's lies now watched his empire fall apart. Everything he had spent years trying to control was gone. Meanwhile, I finally gained full control of my mother's trust. But I didn't use the money to seek revenge. I used it to create the Evelyn Carter Veteran Rehabilitation Center, a facility dedicated to helping veterans and intelligence personnel transition back into civilian life. For the first time in my life, I was free. I no longer needed my father's approval. I no longer needed to prove my worth. I knew exactly who I was. And after everything he had done, that was the greatest victory of all. What would you have done if your own family turned against you just to take your inheritance? Share your thoughts in the comments.